friends. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for joining me in our journey to hope. It is my desire through this podcast to bring you information about how to discover, sustain, or perhaps regain hope. In this episode, I'm speaking with Shawn Hull. Shawn is the director of the Cherokee Children's Home in Cherokee, Texas. Hello, Shawn.
Hey, how are you, David?
I'm doing great, my brother, and thank you for being a guest. Thank you for your time. I tell people that's our most valuable gift we give to somebody, so you're giving me your time, and I so appreciate it.
David, there's nothing I would rather do than talk about the mission that we have here at Cherokee Home and the children we serve. So
Yeah.
it's my honor.
Before we get to talking about the Children's Home, I'd like you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I came up in my career as an educator. I was an elementary school teacher. I met the love of my life at Harding University, and we both became teachers as young marrieds. Later, I went on, became an elementary school principal. My wife and I just have a heart for kids and really believe that everything God led us to do pointed us in the direction of working here at Cherokee Home. When we were just a few years into teaching, we took an adventure and went to South Korea, where we taught kids, and I was administrator of a Christian international school. During that time, we volunteered at some orphanages and ended up adopting our first child, a beautiful 6-week-old baby girl. That led us back to the States to be near to the grandparents, where I continued teaching, and my wife stayed home, where we had our son a few years later. Both of those kids have graduated. Well, Courtney's graduated from Harding, and Clay will do that this December. Close to 15 years ago, after 20 years of teaching, I loved to teach, but my heart said it's time for more. I could teach and show God's love at school, but I couldn't specifically teach kids about the love of Christ. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw an opportunity to come to Cherokee Home as a social services director, and a home that our main mission is to be the hands and feet of Jesus and introduce kids to Christ, it was the perfect match. Now, not only can we care for kids and be the hands and feet of Jesus, but we can, with a purpose, share God's love with them and the reason why we do what we do. So I've been director for about 10 years now, and just loving every moment of it.
So you've been the director for 10 years. You said you started as the social services director?
Yes.
Okay.
In that role, I supervised the house parents. I interviewed children to bring them to the home. Worked with discipline issues that would come up now and then with the kids. But I got to work very closely with the children, and that's where my heart is.
Yeah. And the children are coming into that home or coming out of situations where you talk about discipline problems or things like that. A lot of it is just they're modeling or they're acting out or they haven't had the opportunity to learn. I understand that. Quite a career. I appreciate you stepping into that role. A lot of daily challenges. Well, let's talk about the home itself a little bit. You've already mentioned about the primary mission being the hands and feet of Jesus. I always think of James. He says true religion is caring for the widows and the orphans. So I appreciate very much that the home is there and that you guys are all a part of it. But tell us a little bit about the home.
Sure. Way back in 1958, a group of Christians got together and they noticed a specific need. And in those days, our U.S. government didn't really care for children of Mexican descent. There were many migrant working children in extreme poverty. And so as our brotherhood and the churches of Christ are known for, they see a need and fill it. And so they gathered up a group of Christians from the Abilene, Cherokee, Hill Country area and created the first cottage back in 1958, which was designed to care for these children of Mexican descent.
Okay.
Provide them a home. with the goal of letting them know Christ.
Okay. I remember studying in early Christian history in the first century that a lot of times children would be cast aside in the Roman Empire or whatever.
Sure.
Children would be cast aside, and Christians would step up and take these children in and really save their life, literally save their
Sure.
life. So caring for children has been Christian heritage,
It
and
has.
we need to obviously continue that. The most vulnerable, the most precious
Mm,
gift that we have. Okay.
absolutely.
So how many children do you serve right now?
So right now on campus, we consider ourselves full at 27 children, and we're right hovering around that number. But we also, in recent years, we keep our college kids on the roll.
Okay.
So, for example, we have one on their way to cosmetology school. We've got one over at ACU,
Okay.
majoring in political science, who just recently was awarded an internship out in D.C. So we're really proud of this young man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yesterday, we read a letter to our staff from him, reflecting back on the benefits and his love for Cherokee Home, acknowledging the service that we provided to him. There were some teary eyes because it's
Oh,
rare that we get to hear those firsthand remarks, but we're so proud of this young man.
yeah.
Next week, I get to, several of us drive out to Lubbock to Texas Tech. We've got a young lady named Nishimwe who is graduating with a degree in business and advertising. She is just a poster child for what can happen with our kids. Um, if you have a minute, I'll tell you a little story about her.
I want to hear it.
She has excelled in high school. She did an amazing speech for UIL, went to state and shared her story and encourages us and it allows us to share her story. So I don't share children's stories lightly
Yeah.
because they're sensitive.
Hmm.
But she is proud of where she's been in Cherokee that she calls home and has been generous enough to say, Shawn, here's my story. Feel free to share it if it would be of benefit. But she and her 5 siblings grew up in Tanzania in a concentration type camp.
Mm.
A camp for refugees. So I guess you would say a refugee camp, but she experienced gunfire just nearby and death all around her. So it was a dismal situation.
Mm.
Her family was able to make their way to America, uh, where they would have some chance of success. Um, a very patriarch society that she came from led to a somewhat abusive father in the family, as many people coming to our country find themselves in some real dire poverty and experiencing some real challenges that come out of that. Uh, and so she and her siblings found their way to Cherokee Home. And that's one of the things that we love about our home, and I love about my position here is we might be full and we get a call from a social worker saying, Shawn, we have got 5 kids that they're from age 5 to 13 and we don't have a place for them. And I was like, well, give me a few minutes and I can call our house parents, our staff, our administrators in, sit around the table and say, what are we going to do? Next thing you know, one says, I've got a space. We'll squeeze this one in there, that one there. And before you know it, by the afternoon, we've got 5 little kids with beautiful Tanzanian accents, very scared, you can only imagine, coming with very little, possibly their clothes in a Walmart bag,
Hmm.
ready to start a new life. So the kids were with us for a while. So we provide everything the kids need. You know, first thing they have to know is that they're safe,
Yep.
love, shelter, 3 square meals a day, snacks when they need it to school. Well, as time went on, the family got their act together, and those children were able to be reunited with their family. Well, a year or so goes by, and as things sometimes do, things kind of fell apart. Things got rough, especially for this young lady. She left us at around age 13, and around age 15, uh, was able through a social worker to call and say, she's not feeling safe in her own home. And she remembered the love and care she got at
Hmm.
Cherokee Home. She came to us a very quiet girl, and she left a very quiet girl, but very well behaved and very polite. But she wanted to come back to what felt like home.
Hmm.
So she came back to us for the last couple of years of high school, where she excelled. It's like a light went off, and she became bubbly. It's the love of Jesus just flowed through her smile. If any of you ever have a chance to Google Cherokee Home for Children, and you'll see a little 15-minute documentary that's on YouTube. She's one of our people who just shares her beautiful smile and story. One of the things that I love that she mentions on our video is that she didn't know before Cherokee Home that there was a place where she could come home and it would be quiet and peaceful. She didn't know that there were fathers who weren't loud and abusive and
Hmm.
manipulative. She
Hmm.
saw that in our parents, and we have to give credit to our parents who dedicate their lives
Yeah.
to not only taking care of kids, but being the Christian family example. And so Nishimle's eyes were open to that. And so we helped get her off to college, and she's excelled. She's a go-getter. She even was able to start a small business where she goes around to fairs. It's called King Made Co. And she sells jewelry with words of faith and affirmation that she shares to with other people. And she saved and through some help and connections was able to buy a small trailer that she spent her senior year living in anticipation that she's going to graduate and need somewhere to be.
Yeah.
And so it's just a beautiful story. We can't wait to celebrate as she goes across that stage over at
Yeah.
Texas Tech. And
Yeah. That's the kind of things you live for, isn't it?
absolutely. So I diverged a little bit, but it's a
Oh no,
story
that's
I love to
wonderful.
tell.
I'm going to put link in the show notes, and I'll make sure a link to that documentary is there as
That would be
well. I
wonderful.
think folks would love to meet this young lady and hear
It
that.
sure would.
How are children referred to you?
If we have 27 kids on campus, David, I would be able to give you 27 different stories of how kids come here. So
Okay.
I'll share just a few.
Sure.
Uh, we have a vast network of churches who support us across the state and some
Hmm.
outside the state or are familiar with us. And often we are referred by local churches. For example, just a neighboring church was working with a lady with two toddlers who found herself in some serious trouble, and she was going to have to spend some time in jail.
Mm.
Well, the elders at the church and some of the ladies who were working with her said, Cherokee Home, they're about providing solutions. So they called us that morning in a panic, knowing that at noon, mom was going to be met by the police officers. The children would be turned over into state custody. So when children are turned over in that situation to state custody, it is a long, hard road.
Hmm.
That's a road of being in the foster care system, and frankly, the statistics on success for those kids are dismal.
Hmm.
Our goal is to be able to provide an alternative to that where the parent can maintain contact with their children, where they can get a Christian education uh, and get the best opportunity to not only be a strong citizen of our country, but become citizens of the kingdom. So once again, that my wife and I went over, a little 5-year-old girl, she was having her birthday that day. I can't imagine that being a memory of your 5-year-old birthday. And a little 1-year-old. Now we're licensed for 2 years and up, so that took a little time for us to get permission from the state to care for this child, but we are able to get a variance. So my wife and I got to play grandparents and care for that
Okay.
one for a little bit, which we loved. Uh,
Mhm.
and now he's a 3-year-old running around campuses, and his little sister is 7. And, we just love them like our own. We fall in love with these kids.
Oh,
So
yeah.
churches, that's one way we may get kids referred. Sometimes grandparents or even great-grandparents are caring for their kids. And as they get older, it becomes more and more difficult, or they become more, as they age, there's less energy, and they're just finding that we're not able to do what we really need to for these kids. And they find us through churches or through the internet. Some parents are just really having struggles with their kids. And they just need a time to kind of get out of maybe an inner city situation. And they start Googling and calling around, and they stumble across us. And they're
Mm.
shocked that, wow, you provide all these services completely free of charge. Gives us a chance to minister to the parent and say, yes, we've got Christians around the
Yeah.
entire state and the country who love and want to care for your children. And we're able to do that free. And so we'll visit and bring kids on campus. And, we're not a lockdown or a juvenile system. We're about teaching and educating through love and care. And so for a teenager to come to us, they really need to come visit, meet us, see our hearts, visit campus, uh, take a look around the 58 acres, notice that, hey, there's a rec center here for us. There's a gym, a library, a pool with a splash pad, and tour a cottage and say, hey, this is not home, but it's about as close as we can get. And so get those children sold. Some cases, it might be a probation officer who's working with a young teen who has just been at the wrong place at the wrong time. A judge is saying this child's going to have to be locked into a juvenile system. And this probation officer has a vision. It says, this kid is a good kid at heart. If
Hmm.
we just peel back a few layers, we can see, and I know of a place called Cherokee Home. And so sometimes we'll take those children and give them a second chance to avoid having that label, uh, and see how they can do. And in many cases, those have turned out to be some of our most successful children.
Okay. Wow.
Maybe a school counselor knows about us. We send mailings out to let them know because they're firsthand kind of line of sight for kids who might need our help. So like I say, lots of different reasons why kids could come to Cherokee Home.
Okay. Now, obviously, you provide them place to live,
Sure.
a home. What kinds of services are a part of that? Because obviously it's not just a bed to sleep in and 3 meals a day kind of a thing. There's other things that you provide them.
The very first thing we do have to show our children is that they are safe.
Mhm.
And so we have many things set up so that they feel safe. There's alarms on their bedroom doors. And that's not just to let us know if someone's trying to sneak out, but it's to give them a sense of safety. No one's going to come into their room during the night. And many kids have lived through those experiences.
Hmm.
No one's going to come through a bedroom window, which we've had even kids as young as 6 tell us stories of that happening in their neighborhoods. They need to know they're going to get fed, and that's the easiest part of the job. There's an abundance of food. They no longer have to squirrel away, and sometimes it takes a while to break that. Kids
Yeah.
sometimes parents may find bacon in their pocket, because they have that uncertainty about food. But the most important thing they need to know is that they are loved. And where does that love come from? Why are we doing that? Well, that's because of the grace of God that he has shown us. And we want them to see him shining through not just our hands and feet, but our voices. Our children come from trauma. It's not easy being somewhere, even when people do love them. Many have the idea that, well, you can just love a kid enough that everything will be okay. And it's not always the case. There's a lot that needs to be taught. It takes a lot of patience. Our parents have to be able to withstand a good cussing, uh, and do it with love without letting it become personal and lashing back. And
Yeah.
that's not an
Yeah.
easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing for a house father to especially see his wife being not physically abused, but mentally
Sure.
and put down. But when kids see that over and over and over, and our children begin to see, well, these guys are here for me, even when I try to push them away, because all I know is being pushed away.
Hmm.
And they honestly, sometimes kids are hurt and have experienced so much pain, they try that over and over. And so it's just a lot of time. We do provide professional counseling. We have to take care of our kids' medical needs, their dental needs. Many of them, it's the first time they've ever visited a dentist. Even things like vaccinations up to date. And then our academics, we have a very close relationship with our small little school here in town. K through 12, we only have 120 kids, 130.
Okay.
Some of our staff are on the school board. We have the president of the parent-teacher committee, the booster club. And so we have a lot of interaction with the school and
Okay.
working
Good.
with them because it is not unusual for our kids to come a couple of years behind.
Hmm.
And we work with them with extra tutoring and conjunction with the school, and as quickly as we can get them back up onto grade level. One thing that's just beautiful about a small school setting and the relationship that we have is our kids, if they have any desire to play football, even if they've never picked one up before or run track, they're going to make the team because they're needed and they can get a sense of belonging. So we
Yeah.
have kids on football, basketball, track, taking part in UIL academic competitions. And then the whole faith aspect. We start our children's day with a devotional led by the father or the mother at home. Uh,
Okay.
our kids have a chance to go to Bible camp. We have Wednesday night services here. So they're surrounded by the love of Christ. I think about the first year I came, about a 15-year-old boy who came, and boy, imagine someone who's never really spent much time in church and any time around Christian people have maybe felt judged, maybe by his appearance. And just sometimes we in the church um, have a challenge of looking at people through their appearance and seeing their heart. And I remember announcing, oh, it's time for Devo, and hearing this child under his breath say, what the H, another Devo?
Oh no.
Uh, but with time, seeing that
Hmm.
kids finally come to Christ and his house parent baptizing him,
Yeah.
it shows the journey.
Yeah.
It's not quick, and there's just so much more to it than loving on a kid. We're very strategic with what we do. And I know we'll talk some more about hope in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Hope really has a lot to do with what we do.
I appreciate the passion in your voice and the obvious dedication your staff has to these children. It's great. Hey,
You, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. I just said you mentioned about hope, and that is, it's my podcast is always about helping folks discover, sustain, and regain hope, and you do that in a very direct way. But it's interesting as I was listening to you, a thought came to mind with some of the referrals. You're not only giving hope to that child, you're also helping that family with hope where they may not have had hope before, hope for themselves as well as hope for that child. So please, I'd like you to address that, how the Cherokee Children's Home helps in the overall idea of hope.
Sure. We have to live and operate without judgment. And many times families, by the time they're calling us, they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
They've been kind of beat down and sometimes through no fault of their own. Can you imagine having to call someone and saying, I need a place for my child?
Yeah.
It's not a call anyone wants to make. So we want them from the first call through placement, through interacting with them and keeping connection with their children if that's appropriate, and through reunification if that's the goal, to see that what we're doing is through love. And not just because we're good people, but because it's how Christ treated us. I'm thinking about a little brother and sister who had a mother who found herself homeless. Again, I'm referring to the video because some of these people chose to tell their story on the video. She needed to go into rehab. And how does someone do that? A single mother found herself homeless, needing to go through rehab, wanting to change her life, but where will they be safe?
Mm-hmm.
And so those kids were with us for a few years. They became like our kids. They're back with their mother today. They have a home. She is working. They're at school. He plays football, and they still stay in contact, come back for us and visit us multiple times a year, send us fundraisers for their band projects, and become family. And just to hear that mother speak of the hope that she now has for those children really reflects what we do for the parents.
You know, I'm writing notes as you're talking because I appreciate the parents of all types. They love their children as they know how or are able, and it is a decision of love to sometimes have to give up that child. Again, I don't want to make this about me, but in a personal way, when I was placed in the orphanage, I've had people say, "How could your mother give you up?" Well, my mom was not able to care for us, and so she made that conscious decision to put my sister and I in that home, and we were better off than we would ever have been, and we're able to maintain that relationship with her. So I understand that it's a challenging decision for a parent to have to make that. So yeah, I like the idea that you said you don't judge. We're here to help the children, help the family, and that's just part of that hope that you give them. So anyway, go ahead with the rest of your thoughts, please.
It really is about hope. And, as a child, for me, I hoped I would get a big wheel for Christmas. I wish. But, hope isn't a wish.
Right.
We believe that hope is a confident conviction.
Yes.
And those confident convictions don't come from happenstance. They're developed over time through your circumstances. And so we want to set up circumstances for our children to grow in hope. We've got a role in that. And what is that role? There's goals required for hope. In order you've got to have a certain pathway. How are you going to reach those goals? And then basically you got to have willpower. You've got to have that determination to see it through. So how do we instill that in our kids? Well, we believe hope can be taught. Like I mentioned, through their situations. So we set up, and we want kids not just to be served, but to learn to serve. Kids need to be able to check off small successes, learning to do things like chores, which aren't always fun, but knowing that I've contributed to the family. We've got a level system that was based off of Father Flanagan's, I think it was Boys Town. Which kind of very specifically lead kids through different levels of responsibility. They learn more and more responsibility, and with that responsibility, they gain more and more confidence, which allows us to give them more and more freedom. They start by learning to take no for an answer, how to reach their hand out, look someone in the eye, and shake their hand, how to introduce themselves. They learn to take care of chores, be responsible for their room, take care of their laundry.
Good.
Learn how to take care of their schoolwork. Progress on up through having small jobs, maybe here on campus. And then all the way through getting jobs off campus in some instances. And they do all of that with the sprinkling of Christ's love and through the understanding that all of this is happening because we are so filled with gratitude for what Christ has done for us. When I visit with some of our alumni who now are in their mid-60s, some of the stories about boiling hogs and preparing them to be butchered or wringing chickens' necks, getting up before school and working in the garden. I love for them to share stories with our children, who now live 6 or 7 in a home compared to 12 to 15.
Yeah.
So it's.
But that's great. You're teaching them responsibility and sharing and all kinds of other spin-off things that are multidimensional in our learning process. That's great. I love that. I do. I love that. Okay, good. You're teaching them life skills without them even realizing, oh, this is a lesson. Well, yes, it is, but it's life.
Absolutely. And David, speaking of life skills, in the last several years, we've come to the understanding of an area we really needed to grow in, and we've had some fantastic growth. And that's what happens to these kids when they turn 18. Do we just say, here's $50 or $500? Go have a good life. And so through a lot of hard work and commitment and dedication from our staff and parents here, we really cranked up the services we provide to our kids as they become adults. And we call it transitional living, helping a child transition into adulthood, whatever that may look like. We've become better at, and we're working to really create an environment where a child feels like Cherokee is our home. We do have a place to come home to. So as our kids are able and have moved through the level system, generally it's, juniors and seniors. We have what we call a transitional living home. And that's where they have a mother and a father who also work in our offices as in our social services department and help them explore what's next and springboard into their adulthood. So our children learn things that we might naturally teach our own kids, like how to drive. They need to get a driver's license, how to fill out applications for work, how to get your first part-time job, how to show up and be responsible and call in sick instead of just not showing up. That responsibility, how to take care of a vehicle. Our kids are able to save up, and for every dollar they save up to a certain amount, through some generous donors, we're able to match that dollar 2 to 1 so they can get a good, solid used car. Now, a good, solid used car might be 10 years old with 100,000 miles, but they have worked for it. They've earned it. Maybe they've used some money that they've saved from, our kids raise pigs on campus and show them at 4-H and sell them, and that money goes into an account that will be theirs one day for college or towards a vehicle. So they've got skin in the game, and the pride of responsibility of getting that first car, which is something that's hard for a children's home to do, but we're able to do that. And just actually later this week, we are pouring a foundation for a transitional living center. And we're very excited about that's going to be an 8,000 square foot complex, which has a beautiful living area, offices where our transitional living team can work and counsel with their children. It will have housing under the same roof for our kids who are in the program, maybe our juniors and seniors preparing for college or trade school or military or work. And then it'll have house parent quarters. But what's special about this, on the back side of it, under the same roof, but not connected to the main living area because of safety concerns for young adults, our college kids who will need a place to come home. We'll have these small efficiency apartments. And so, for example, our kids like Nishimwe, who are at college, and Christmas rolls around and they don't have anywhere to be, they'll have a place to come home to. Right now, I love it when they call me and say, Shawn, I need a place. Can we use your spare bedroom? Like, sure, come on. But they'll have a place that's theirs where they can come home in the summer, where they can do some work for us here on campus or find a part-time job and just develop and continue those family ties like our kids would do during normal breaks.
You're changing generations when you do that.
But, I think that's one of the keys that's really going to impact our ability to impact our children. And so, when we dug down for that foundation, we found we had about 7 feet of topsoil before we hit a solid foundation. So we had to spend a month filling in with caliche. That's that white, rocky, more solid concrete. We had to build a foundation. Boy, there's a lot of stories there. I can really see the parallel between we are building a foundation for this and helping our kids. And that's causing us to look all the way back to our youngest children. How are we serving them? How can we better serve and prepare them to not only be these citizens of the country, but of the kingdom?
Yeah.
So that's what's exciting right now.
Yeah. Well, and all of that does support the concept of hope, because hope is a forward vision type of concept. And so the more I have a vision of a future, then the greater my hope's going to be. And you said, I use the expression confident assurance or confident expectation. What was the word you said?
Maybe a confident conviction.
Confident conviction is a great way to explain that, because I'm convinced that there is something out there where there may not have been before, or at least not much of a vision of it. That's great. The Sojourners love being a part of the Cherokee Home.
Oh, we love the Sojourners. They bring such joy to our campus.
We're all grandparents and we just can't help it.
Right.
But it's always one of our, it fills up fast. We always have a lot of folks that are ready to be a part of that sojourn. That kind of leads me to the last part of this. I wanted to know about how we can find out more about the Children's Home and how can we help, either as an individual or a congregation or some type of organization. How can we help?
Absolutely. If you haven't picked up on it yet, David, there's nothing I enjoy more than sharing about the work and mission.
Of course.
And so personally, you can call our office and say, give me Shawn, I want to talk to him and let's brainstorm. What can we do? We do not have a contract with the state. We do not take state funds. We are completely supported by churches and private individuals who love and care for us and what we're doing for these children. So, of course, I'm not doing my job if I don't mention just the day-to-day sustainability of the home. And David, we've got so many people who send us monthly just as a part of their budget. It might be $10. It might be $500. But every one of those people and every letter I sign each month touches my heart.
Yeah, and our Lord has a way of compounding even a small gift, especially.
Absolutely does. David, it's not unusual that someone we didn't even know has said, you know what, I want to leave Cherokee Home in our will. I want to leave a lasting legacy. And sometimes maybe they've got a couple of kids and they're, we're going to leave to our kids, but we're going to consider Cherokee Home one of our children. We're going to give you a portion. That's a beautiful way. But then there's non-monetary ways praying for us. It's a joy here, but it can be a heartache as well. It is a very hard work. Our parents are the front line. I don't know how they have the energy to do what they do, but they do it with a loving heart. So pray for us, especially the leadership teams, more especially our house parents who are in the trenches day in and day out. I would love for you to come visit, jump on a golf cart. We'll tour around campus. Go to Google, watch the video. That'll give you a little taste. Maybe it'll tease you into coming in. Um, we love to go visit. We've got guys who could pinch hit preach for you, or just come share a video, or come share a talk or a slideshow to your group. We've got a home right here on campus that has been repurposed, one of our original homes, into a, a place that will, a hospitality center. And that'll house up to 22, 24 people. We've had churches say, hey, we're going to use that and just come do a retreat, enjoy our facilities. Let them hear a little bit about the home. You mentioned sojourners come. We have youth groups come in the summer, stay in our hospitality, eat with us, have devotionals, not just entertain kids, but do some hard work on campus, clearing brush, to weed eating, trimming trees, many, many different ways. If you're interested in volunteering, we have a volunteer coordinator you could call and ask to talk to Janice. Happens to be my wife, so I'm a little biased about the job she does. But she loves to coordinate, and in many creative ways, whether it's teaching an art class or doing some work or providing an Easter egg hunt for the kids. So if you're interested, financial or not, we can plug you in.
Okay, great. I'm going to put the web page and the Facebook page links and things like that on the show notes so folks can go out there and see it. Yeah. I regret that I have a couple of sojourns I'm committed to that interfere with me being able to go out there. I know the sojourners that are a part of that team, and they're just fun to be around. So
they really are. They may be a little older in years, but they're some of the most youthful visitors we have.
Yeah.
They know how to have a good time while they're serving Christ.
Yeah. Well, sojourners love opportunities such as the Cherokee Children's Home. And by the way, for our listeners that don't know what sojourners are, we're Christians that have retired, and we travel throughout the United States helping small churches, children's homes, children's Bible camps, doing various service projects. We teach, we preach. Sometimes it comes down to we just encourage. That's what sojourners do. And so the Cherokee Children's Home is a wonderful opportunity for us to do that. And I know we're going to be working with you guys for years to come.
No, we appreciate that.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, Shawn, before we wrap up, my brother? I'm not trying to hurry you.
David,
this has been fascinating.
I just want to say a great big thank you to the many, just first of all, to God for allowing us to do what we do. We wake up every day. We get to live and work on a beautiful campus with God's greatest children.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable. We saw Christ treat the vulnerable with so much dignity, so much respect. He still cared for their souls. He showed them the way, and that's what we want to do. So thank you for that chance to share.
Well, I tell people, and over the more than 100 episodes, I keep telling folks, if you are having your hope challenged, one of the best ways to start regaining hope is to get out of yourself and look for opportunities to help others. And you will grow in your hope because you're seeing those successes. And so the Cherokee Children's Home is just one more way that we can do that. We can change our focus from self onto others. And it's amazing how that helps hope. Okay. Well, thank you, my friend, again for your time. It's really been fascinating. And as I said, you're changing generations, and you may not even see it in your lifetime, but it'll be there.
Well, we thank you, and we appreciate that God's doing the changing. We do a lot of planning. Sometimes we never get to see it. Sometimes we get those letters like we just did.
Yeah.
But we know that God has made us a promise, and He's gonna tend to that field.
Okay. Well, friends, thank you for joining Shawn and I as together we journey to hope. I trust in some small way we've encouraged you to discover, sustain, or regain hope through this effort. I invite you to contact me if you have any questions or comments, or if you wish to share with me something you've experienced in your journey to hope. My email is info@ourjourneytohope.com. That's info@ourjourneytohope.com. And please share this podcast with someone whose hope is being challenged. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Again, I'm Dr. Dave Layton, and thank you for listening. And until our next episode, remember, we give all glory to God the Father.